So, Berto, I have a bunch of emails that people have written in to you and me, you and I, and let's answer them. What do you say?
Let's do it.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist, and I'm also a professor who teaches at Antioch University in Seattle. Who are you, Humberto?
My name is Humberto Castañeda, and I am a professional stone skipper.
So this first email is from patron Jess from Utah. She writes, I recently had a friend disclose to me that she was wanting to catfish an ex-boyfriend to see if he went back to his ex-wife. She was planning on making a fake profile so she could catfish him. I could tell she put a lot of work into it. I was completely shocked by this. I did the best I could to help her see that nothing positive will come from it. I would be interested in hearing your and possibly Humberto's perspective on catfishing. Perspective on catfishing. Why do people catfish, and what could people do to convince others not to catfish? People, we talked about this before, stop lying, people. Stop deceiving. Don't do it. I get the reasons, but let's not joke around about it. It's not okay. Let's not make it normal. It's harmful. You're hurting someone, and you're denying yourself a chance to actually heal. For this person who is catfishing her ex-boyfriend to see if he went back with his ex-wife, there's obviously something going on there pain-wise that she is avoiding through this immoral deception. And I'm guessing, well, okay, so you ask patron Jess from Utah, why do people catfish, and why do people, convince others, and what can people do to convince others not to catfish? Well, the first answer, I don't know, I'm sure research is coming out about this, but my hypothesis for a lot of people catfishing, and particularly your friend, is that they have a lot of pain from the loss that they went through. They have perhaps complicated grief. They have powerlessness. They don't have any way out of the pain. They've tried to get out of the pain. They can't. And they see this as a way to alleviate their pain. They're trying to gain power. There's this weird cognitive bias that we have when we're in pain of this sort, where we try to gather information. We feel like if we have the information, then we won't hurt anymore. And sometimes that's true, but oftentimes it's not. An akin situation would be your spouse cheats on you, and you're trying to recover from that as a couple, and you keep asking your spouse to give you more and more details. Did you orgasm? These kinds of things are common questions that people will ask. Did you like it? How many times? What position were you in? Where were you?
Did you order the code red?
Yeah, these kinds of things. And the impulse is, well, if I know the information, I'll feel more at ease. But when you have that information, you now recreate it in your brain, and now it's like you're putting yourself in the room as it's happening, which is not a good idea for your mental health, really. It'd be like someone dies at war, and you keep asking their their friends that they died with, how did he die? What did it look like? How much blood was there?
Yikes.
And the people will do that too. And I get it. And sometimes it can help, but it doesn't always help. Anyway, that's what I'm guessing your friend is doing. And she doesn't have any other way of processing that pain. She should obviously go to a therapist. There's also a chance that in her cultural pocket, Jess, that they've normalized this, that I'm just going to take a guess and say that your friend did not invent this in her group. Maybe it's a friend group, or it's a Twitter group of people that are like, if you're really curious, just make a fake profile and then you could figure things out. Or they saw it in a TV show and it wasn't consequenced in any way, or a reality TV show for that matter. Even the show Catfishing will sometimes normalize catfishing. That's a TV show, right, with those guys.
Yep.
And we need to stop that. It's deceptive. It's flat out immoral. And yeah, I'm glad, patron Jess, you have a negative reaction to it, because that is awful. There's so many bad things that could happen to the ex-boyfriend for no reason because of this.
The only time you should be catfishing is if you work for the FBI or the CIA or something. You're running a thing trying to catch bad people.
Yeah, sting operation. Anonymous listener, they say, I'm curious to know what your professional opinion is regarding breakup sex. In one of your YouTube reaction videos, I remember you talked about the opportunity for two people to grieve an ending relationship together as a helpful part of the moving on process. Do you think breakup sex could be part of that grieving process in a functional way? Berto, what do you think?
I mean, I went through this for sure one time. I mean, I broke up multiple times, but there was one time in particular that there was a breakup where it was, I mean, up there in my top 5 best sex of all time. And yeah, I mean, I guess it must have been all the emotions, because it wasn't a situation where we were like, I'm through with you, I hate you. It was like, man, this sucks, but this isn't working out. And so we were both super sad, and I think that really helped in some way. I don't know if the sex being great helped or not, because maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but it definitely felt like a moment, it was a moment I would never forget kind of thing. And I have to say, it's gotta be a sense of release happening for both people that felt trapped in a relationship. And then it's like, well, I guess we don't have to do this anymore. Okay, well then let's go all out here.
Yeah, it's a case-by-case basis, anonymous listener. For some, breakup sex could be a good thing. It could be an expression of love and caring for the other person as you're saying goodbye. It could be kind of like a ceremonial act in a sense for closure. Some people feel about it that way. It could also remind you of why you didn't want to be with that person in the first place. Because sometimes as you're breaking up, there's a idealization that you might have of the other person. And because you miss them, because you're breaking up and there's some distance there. And then when you actually have sex with them and you hang out with them for a little bit, you're like, oh yeah, that's why we weren't good together. So that can be helpful. And for others, breakup sex could be a terrible thing. It could give the other person the wrong impression and lead someone on. It could make someone feel like they're a piece of meat. Some people might agree to break up sex just because they're desperate to have closeness with that person again. And in the back of their mind, they're like, well, maybe this is the beginning of us getting back together, when in fact it was just for sex, and that could feel very bad to someone. It could also make it hard for one or both people to move on from the relationship. If you have breakup sex every 3 days for 2 years, it might hinder your ability to move on. So it's really a case-by-case basis, but the question, anonymous patron, is great, because I'm often railing about this. And one of the very first episodes Berto and I did when we were in Ballard outside, do you remember? And I was talking about the dumper and the dumpy. Do you remember all that stuff?
Was this when we had all the construction work happening in the background, or was this just outside on the table?
Yeah, on the table.
Was it that cold day, like we had our little coats on and stuff?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
So
yes.
So this would have been 2009, and Berto and we were answering emails, I think, and I was talking about how if you're the dumper, you have a moral obligation. I've been saying this for decades, apparently. If you're the dumper, you have a moral obligation to do what you can within reason to make the adjustment of breaking up easier for the dumpee. There's this notion in culture that you make a clean break, and certainly that can be the wise thing to do, but it certainly isn't all the time in every case. At the very least, you have a responsibility to think about it and ask the dumpee what's going to be best for them. Because in some optimal breakups, the dumpee needs to have a month or 2 or 3 where they have occasional conversations with you and you indulge them. Even though you don't want to have the conversation as a dumper, you accommodate that because you have empathy and you care. And the dumpee is like, I don't understand. Why did you break up with me again? And you're like, well, I've already gone over this, but it's because of this and because of that. Well, I don't understand because you said this 6 months ago, and you're like, yeah, well, I don't know. I was kind of confused at the time. I kind of believed it.
Right.
Yeah, well, you told me you loved me for like 3 years. Was that all a lie? No, that wasn't a lie. I actually did love you, and I still do in a sense. I just don't want to be with you romantically anymore.
Right.
Well, you're just a big, horrible person who doesn't care about me. And you're like, well, that's not the way I see it. But, I understand that you're hurt and I get it. But, I don't know what happened. I just don't want to be with you anymore. I'm really sorry, and you allow that process to happen as the dumper, then the dumpee will likely benefit, and you might benefit as the dumper too. Now, it's very complicated because obviously if the dumpee is being abusive to you or something, then
Sure.
let's not go there. But there's this notion in society that you have to somehow just like clean break, and that is, that's not always the best thing to do. It's not the moral. It certainly is the easiest thing to do. It like a drive-by breakup of like, by the way, I break up, and then 5 minutes later you're like, okay, I'm going home, don't ever contact me again because that means you're stalking me,
Right.
Oh my God, they keep texting me all this stuff, and it's like, well, maybe they need to talk about some stuff, maybe they have questions. Maybe they're emotionally suffering because of you, and maybe you have a responsibility within reason. If the dumpee is being fair, then maybe it's your responsibility as a human being to help, right? And if breakup sex is a part of that, then that's fantastic. All right, anonymous patron says, my boyfriend and I sleep separately sometimes, and we are having trouble connecting. So my boyfriend and I, we sleep in separate rooms at night, and we are having trouble connecting. Is sleeping separately the reason why we're having trouble connecting? Berto, what do you think?
It depends, right? It's a very chicken and egg situation because you could be choosing to sleep separately because you're not connecting or whatever. But first of all, like, I don't think there's something inherently problematic with sleeping separately in some situations, or maybe all the time. Like, I know couples that have been together forever who sleep in different rooms, and they've had different reasons that I know of. Like, in one case, the guy was a snorer. They just didn't like that, and so they slept in different rooms. They've been together forever. In another case, it was more a matter of like lifestyle. Like, one person stayed up really, really late and fell asleep watching TV and then bothered the other person. Actually, right now, like my grandparents, my 90 billion-year-old grandparents, together forever. They're still, they're together forever. They're gonna, till death do us part. And basically, my grandpa and my grandma now have different life patterns at night, and so they end up sleeping in different rooms, like whatever. But of course, if you are sleeping in different rooms and you're having what you feel is issues connecting, it could be that sleeping, not being together intimately, or not offering opportunities for intimate connection, is not helping you connect. So that could be related for sure.
Yeah. So let's look at the research. There's some research indicating that there is an increased chance of attachment and relationship satisfaction when you sleep together, which makes sense. But it's a minor effect, meaning that when you average all the couples that sleep together in the same room, and then you average all the couples that don't sleep together, there's a minor difference in terms of the average scores of relationship satisfaction. And of course, there's a big bell curve, right? The second thing is that there's also some evidence that it helps people get better sleep, but that's also minor. But there seems to be some evidence that when you sleep with your spouse, there are benefits in the REM cycle or deeper sleep or something, even though you might be kind of distracted by the person. Anyway, we seem to have evolved to sleep with other humans. It kind of makes some sense. We seem to feel safer. I mean, that's just my guess, is that when we sleep with other people, and hear, subconsciously hearing them breathing or just knowing that they're over there makes us feel more safe, which might actually enhance sleeping, right?
Yeah, but I was going to say, but it might also vary by age too. Like you might be fine early, and as you start getting older, you start getting a little more, specific and peculiar and snory or whatever. Like things change.
Right, and that leads me to my third point, which is that there's also evidence that sleeping together can create sleep problems for people. So if you have snoring or CPAP machines, or you wake up at different times, like one person watches TV late at night, or one person likes to read a book in bed, one person likes the light on, one person doesn't, one person...
Or if you're sleeping with different people or having orgies, like this can get in the way.
Yeah, or to be serious, like you sleep with animals, right? And one person likes that, one person doesn't. So when you do that, then you're definitely at risk of missing sleep. And when you are sleep deprived, which most Americans are, there are a lot of problems that can happen when you're sleep deprived. Depression, anxiety, suicide, literally, academic performance, work performance, ADHD, violence, crime, drug problems, so many physical, dementia, high blood pressure. Like there's so many things associated with sleep deprivation. You, as a physician, you might accidentally kill some of your patients because you're sleep deprived. They've demonstrated that as well. So the thing to do as a couple is to think about a number of scenarios. One, if you're having trouble sleeping at night, and we're talking you need 8 hours, and sometimes they say 7, but I feel like that gives some people an excuse to get like 6 hours. Yeah. So I'm saying 8, because there are plenty of adults who need absolutely 8 hours. And also, some people think of their hours of sleep are the hours they spend in bed, but actually you might need like 9.5 hours in bed for 8 hours of sleep, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So you need about 8 hours of sleep at night. Younger people need more, 9+ hours. And if you're not getting that amount of sleep, you need to do a lot of things to figure out how to fix that. It should be your number one priority. Now, it might be hard to fix, and it might actually not be possible given certain factors, but do not delay. If you have a to-do list of, I got to work on that, outdoor situation, or I got to put that new molding on the basement floor. I've got to, I really want to get my project done. No, all that stuff is a distant second to getting your sleep situation in order. And you want to consult with experts about this, because there's so many different reasons why people do not get enough sleep at night. And as you get older, there can be apnea and all sorts of really just horrific things. And so make sure you get that. Now, maybe that means sleeping not with your partner. If that could be one of the things that you consider. But the problem is that because of stigma, because there's so much judgment out there about couples not sleeping in the same room, I'm guessing there are millions of couples, particularly around the world, who would benefit from sleeping in a separate room but don't do it because they don't want to be judged or they don't want to hurt their partner. When it comes to your sleep, I mean, at the very least, experiment with it, right? Like it could be one of the 7 factors you find are key to you getting a good night's sleep. And do not give in to the stigma. Now, the other thing to think about is if you're a long-distance relationship and you're like, our relationship is fine, but you feel distant, it could be because you're not sleeping in the same room very often. And it's not just sleeping in the same room, it's saying goodnight together and saying good morning together. There's a lot of things that go with sleeping in the same room. So it kind of cuts both ways. It's like there's stigma for people to stay in the same room when they shouldn't. And there's also like this loosening of we're all adults here, and not recognizing the need for attachment and the animal side of us that needs to be physically close to other animals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, next email. But first, let's take a break. What do you say, Berto?
Let's do it.
Hey, deserving listeners, as you know, I'm constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. One of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp.com. So if you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to BetterHelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the /Kirk because you get 10% off your first month and it helps us out. I get a lot of emails from you saying that you're looking for a therapist. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, but I know it can be really hard to find a good one to work with. Like I said, one of the options available to try is BetterHelp.com/Kirk. And you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide, which is amazing. I've been told that you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message with your counselor anytime. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. And I've been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy. So go to BetterHelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month of therapy today. So, Berto, if you're going to catfish the listeners into becoming a patron of the podcast, what would that sound like?
Yes, hello? Oh, yeah. Hi. I'm doing some research. I'm a university student. I would just like to ask you a few questions about your sexuality and your preferences and your other interests and things like this. Anyways, I'm just going to rattle off a few questions. But before I do, I just need you to please maybe go to a website that I'll give you and type in some information. It really has nothing to do with this, but I think you'll find it quite pleasurable to do. I also will need your credit card information. My name, by the way, is Miles Angeles. So the website is Psychology in Seattle, and there you will find some links to something called Patreon. I am the president of this company, and also a researching student. And so I need you to please contribute and become a patron, because that will enhance your sleep apnea and also make it so that you can be really awesome. Anyways, I got to go. Bye.
Listener Claire from the UK says, "Hey, Kirk and Umberto. My question is inspired after watching the new Aladdin remake. If you were given 3 wishes, what would they be? Beto, what would they be? 3 wishes."
Oh my gosh. And you can't wish for infinite wishes and things like this, you know. You can't cheat. You can't hack your way around this. All right.
Well, you could wish for infinite -1.
No, but in reality, like if I could, like this is it. Like I'm going to get 3 wishes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, you got to be careful because we still live in the real world. So for example, if I asked for $1 trillion, there's a lot of implications. Like it might devalue dollars altogether. It might, there might be a lot of unintended consequences.
Yeah, it's funny because I did the same thing. I'm like, well, because in the movies, it's always a bad thing. It always backfires, So like I was watching Rick and Morty. I'm actually starting from the beginning. And when the dog pees on the floor and the father asks Rick, it's like, can you make the dog a little smarter so that, and Rick is just like, be careful what you ask for. Okay, I just made this thing, and he puts this helmet on the dog, and the dog now has intelligence. And then fast forward like 12 hours, and the dog has made a mech unit thing to walk around in, and is standing over the daughter's bed and saying, "Where are my testicles?"
Yeah, it's hilarious. Where are my testicles?
Yeah.
Well, so anyways, here's what I would do. And this would probably still backfire. But I would say, all right, step 1. I want you to invent and whatever needs to be done scientifically here so that all the world energy is 100% renewable and in such a way that doesn't blow up the planet in like 10 years. Come on, like 11 years.
Wait. So wait, I'm Aladdin, and I'm like, okay, wait. Put that in one sentence and one wish. Go.
Okay, fine. Look, make all the world's energy be renewable.
That's it?
Well, that's step 1. That's my first wish.
Okay. What's your second wish?
Okay, my second wish would be, my second wish would be make.
What do you mean by renewable?
So
because
that
I can make an endless geyser of oil.
This is what I'm talking about. That's why I needed more. Well, fine. Make all the world's electricity and vehicles and everything run on solar power.
Okay. Still,
Come on,
though.
you're a genie. Just do it.
Okay.
Just do it. Okay. So now we're not using oil. We're not using anything. Great.
Okay.
So we're not polluting. Pollution goes from 100 billion to 0.
Okay.
Second, I want you to cure, God. Oh, fudge. I want you to cure all humans right now suffering from any ailment that deviates from the norm of human homeostasis. Homeostasis. Oh my gosh. Now all of a sudden people have cancers growing out of their heads. Okay, anyways, just do it. Come on.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And then number 3, sure, I want just $1 billion. Just give me $1 billion.
All right. Well, for me, it was, I just want the pandemic to be over. I don't know what wish to say, like everyone's vaccinated or COVID doesn't exist anymore. I don't know, just something along those lines. I just cannot wait until it's over. I am fantasizing about the party that I'm going to throw, Berto. So just get ready.
Am I supposed to be invited to these parties?
No, you're going to be the caterer. Just joking. It's going to be weeks long. There's going to be circus animals and
all solar powered.
Okay.
No one's going to get sick.
Number 2 is, we all stay young and healthy, including pets.
Oh my gosh. Forever. No one has kids.
Well, and then number 3 is unlimited resources.
Oh, okay. And space. You forgot about space. And
Well,
now
that's a resource.
We're all cramped.
That's a resource. That's a resource.
I guess.
That's a resource.
But so we live so far apart from each other because you never said we could travel at super light travel. So people live so far away that you'll never see people. And
Runners up, I had no political problems because that's been on my brain.
Yeah.
Another one was I never have to buy another fucking cell phone. Sorry for the swear. I am getting so tired of buying a cell phone every year or two. Every time you get one, it's like, why would I need another cell phone? And it always becomes obsolete. And these are expensive things. And every time I buy a new one, I have to adjust to some new way of dealing with the world when I didn't need it to be anyway.
Yeah.
And then my last runner-up was Charlie Kaufman writes a good movie and Michel Gondry or Spike Jonze directs it.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Listener Suhaim from Qatar, he writes, I am a conservative and orthodox guy. So with women, I restrict myself to talking about professional matters only. Also, I am happily married. But I recently noticed that I am always more keen in helping you always know someone's not from the States when they use the word keen, you know what I mean? But recently I noticed that
keen observation.
But I recently noticed that I'm always more keen in helping my female peers. Why is this? Is this something natural for all guys? Why can't I treat both men and women equally? Listener Suhaim from Qatar has that question. Beto, what do you think?
I mean, okay, so you've been a little puzzled by this that I've said before, but I have trained myself over the last 20 years or so to behave very specifically at work. And the way I behave at work is a very neutral behavior. I hope that I treat most people very close to the same. I don't feel like I'm like, oh, I should help this person a bit more. I mean, the only exception if someone's being rude or something, I might be less inclined to. But I don't think that came natural to me. I think if I rewind the clock 20, 25 years, I'm sure I had different mental models for different people that were my age and were like friendly and probably guys that I associated with, I treated one way. People that were older and that were maybe full white, like, you know, that were in charge of things, I probably treated differently and so forth. Anyways, So I do think that there are some patterns that we've grown up with. There might also be some vestiges of animal instincts in there. However, I don't think it's useful in the modern workplace to give preferential treatment to people. I mean, I think you should treat your coworkers fairly and equally, and anyways.
Yeah. Well, listener Suhaim from Qatar, you're asking, why you are more keen in helping your female peers. I don't know the answer to that question. You could talk with a therapist maybe, or investigate it with people around you. There's no way for me to know. There are thousands of possible factors as to why you have a preference for helping your female peers. But just some possible factors off the top of my head is you just like women more than men, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people that have preferences like this. There are women who we have this assumption that you're supposed to prefer your own gender as a peer. Like if you're a guy, you're supposed to prefer hanging out with dudes. And if you're a woman, you're supposed to prefer having female friends. But why? Why would that be? I mean, certainly it's fine if that's the way it is, but what if you like both genders equally as friends? Or what if you actually like the other gender more? Or what if you like some other gender more? It's fine. There's nothing wrong with preferring a particular sort of person. Now, what do you do with that? Do you discriminate against the other gender? You just have to really evaluate that. There's a fine line between what you described, which I think is fine, and but we want to say our sexist, misogynistic jokes, and we can't have women. That's a completely other thing. If that's what your deal is, then no, that's not okay. It's not okay to be like, I like my male thing because we can get away with, or I like my all white people thing because we get away with a bunch of black people jokes. No,
right.
No. Okay.
No.
So, but there's plenty of people. For me, for example, if I just added up all my friends, most of them are men. But if you add up all my best friends, it's like half women, half men. The Lita Katibi, the first co-host along with you 12 years ago on this podcast, she was my best friend for many years. And there were other women and girls I was best friends with when I was a kid. So there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that's a factor. Another factor is you're looking for an excuse to flirt. I don't know, but that could be a factor. And there's some light flirting that might be okay, but we probably want to steer away from that at work in all likelihood, because people aren't probably going to appreciate it, and it's probably not good for your marriage. And which leads me to my third factor, which is that you might not be getting your companionship needs met, either from your wife or from your attachments as a whole, and it's sneaking out in this, being quote unquote more keen in helping your female peers. You asked the question, Suhaim, is it natural for all guys? No, it is not natural for all guys. That's an excuse that misogynists will use. Well, that's the way men are. They can't help but flirt with other women. They have to assert their dominance. No, research does not show that. There are some researchers that claim that, but when you actually look more closely at the data and you control for certain things, no, it is not an inherent male thing to dominate and make women feel uncomfortable at work. It's not. So
let me push a little bit on this though, because I feel like we're not done with this problem. Like, I feel like as a society, we do have a pervasive problem with these kinds of things. I know that we've debated many times about what's nurture and nature. Let's say I give it 100% all to nurture. It's all society, fine. But I would still claim that this is why we still have to watch a lot of videos and things, because I think there is still a lot of entrenched discrimination and ill treatment to one another, and across sexes and across races. So if a person
How in
says,
the world is that pushing back on what I just said?
Because you said that someone might say like, hey, that's just the way guys are. And I think that from a certain perspective, that's unfortunately true.
Well, it's unfortunately true that men are taught, it's definitely in our culture, that men are taught that they have the right to abuse and assert and
Yeah, exactly.
dominate and to harm, that women don't have rights, that women are possessions, and that women are just there for men's pleasure.
We're not going to heal them if we tell them that that's not the way it works. We have to heal them by basically saying that it can't work that way. Like we have to stop that.
I don't know what works. I mean, it depends on the human being, but because especially when you're dealing with someone in a particular echo chamber, a misogynistic echo chamber, and I've argued with these people online.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get them to change, but
I mean, well, the only thing I saw that worked at like in the professional corporate environment that I've seen is mandates for taking tests or not tests, classes, and mandates as in, oh my gosh, that person just got fired. Oh my gosh, that person just got, and because over the years, I think the more of those things happened, I definitely started seeing kind of a neutralizing of things like,
well, maybe. There's many things that change it, including, that's one. I mean, you're basically talking about getting rid of the bad apples and scaring the close to bad apples with the firing of the bad apples. You're talking about taking the mandatory classes, which are usually awful, by the way. I've had to take these sometimes. They are just like some of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And I don't know the research on that. I'm sure there is some research, but it's a lot of things. One, it begins at birth. When parents and young children are living their lives, we need to start there because that's where a lot of it begins. It has to do with role models. It has to do with media and movies and TV shows and how gender is depicted and what we basically allow to be normalized in culture. It is it is educating people in school. It's talking about the history of sexism. I mean, the thing that worked on me, because I grew up in a sexist society and I was much more sexist when I was younger.
Yeah.
What worked on me was history. When I learned the history of my society, as it pertained to many things, including gender, it puts into focus what's happening now. Final email, Berto.
Whoa.
We've reached the bottom of the 12 pages.
We've done it.
Anonymous listener, I have a massive love for Star Wars. For me, it is a story of good winning over evil. I'm also a live streamer where I play Star Wars: The Old Republic, while people watch me and they discuss. The vast majority of people in the discussion indicate that they love the dark side. They revel in killing anyone who betrays them. I don't understand this. Why do people love living out these dark fantasies? I can't help judging them a bit and finding them disturbing. Beto, what do you think?
Yeah, that is a fascinating thing. So I have a lot of thoughts about this. So first off, who doesn't love Star Wars? Come on. Sure, it's only 3 movies that happened a long time ago, but still, it's amazing. So when I was in high school, I remember a couple of my good friends got into these. Do you remember these videos that the Faces of Death?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I could never watch those.
So for those who don't know what it is, this is way before the internet. There was this videotape or a series of videotapes, VHS tapes, that you could rent. And they had supposed scenes of people dying. So there'd be a scene of someone getting run over by a car or someone falling off of a cliff or someone being in an accident or something. And it was things that would never be shown on television, but it was like this, I don't know what you call it, like all young boys of a certain age knew about this, legendary VHS cassette that you just had to watch.
Yeah, and so I was one of the rare exceptions because I had zero interest in watching this. Not only did I not watch it, I absolutely would silently judge my friends thinking that's not good. And I in my mind it was from a few angles. One, maybe because my dad was a psychiatrist and stuff, I just was like, that's going to have a profound impact on their psyche. Number 2, I was, deeply Catholic at the time. So I'm like, that's probably not right to do anyways. And then number 3, I actually I felt like I don't want to watch someone suffering like in real life. I love movies with violence. I don't want to see it in real life.
Yeah.
But that was the difference. To me, the reason I didn't want to watch that tape is because at least it was supposed to be real. But on the other hand, I loved me some movie violence. The more violent, the better. I loved everything, you name it, Predator, Contra, whatever you want. I would love it, enjoy it. I loved gory, I still do gory horror movies and all these things. People suffering, torture chambers, and love it all. Why? Am I evil? When Star Wars, The Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic came out, I loved playing. Absolutely went the dark side. I was like, oh, I betrayed my friend. It was a moving moment. Now the question is why? And does that make me evil? I absolutely made peace with myself. I was like, no, this doesn't make me evil. I just can't do this in real life because I'm not evil. It's because I'm not evil. If I could do this, the way I think about it is, if there's something I can do and do every day all the time, why would it be interesting for me to do it in a video game? So do I want to play a video game where I wake up at 7 a.m., I take a shower, I drive in a long, slow commute to a job, and I arrive, and then I work for 9 hours with boring stuff. And then, no, I don't want to play this game. Why would I want to play this game? Would it make me a good person because that's the game I play?
You're describing Sims, by the way, which is one of the most
No,
beloved movies of games of all time.
But I'm not describing Sims, because what do you do in Sims? You don't have to wait 8 hours. All you have to do is you have to like run your guy in circles and he gets fit. And then you have to trap him in a corner and he goes psychotic. And you can drown him in the pool. And then you can do, anyways.
That's not the way I play Sims. I play it just like it's life,
But it's not, because you don't have to waste 20 years of your life getting a television. You actually waste an hour.
The point you're making is that you like to play Darth Vader because why?
There's a couple reasons. One, I don't get to do this in real life. If I did, I would be bored with it.
You also don't get to play Luke Skywalker.
Well, and I like playing those too. So, okay, so now we've established why we like fantasy. Right, fine. But I guess if the question is, why do you want to be evil? It's like, well, I don't get to be evil. And then you say, well, but you also don't get to be the good guy. I get to be the good guy, just not fantastically. Okay, fair. Why Darth Vader? Darth Vader's design is amazing. Like, just character-wise, it's an amazing character design. Power-wise, he was certainly more powerful for most of the situation than the series than Luke was.
Right.
Arguably, he was on there with Yoda. Would I like to play Yoda? Yeah, but he's a little, like, more restrictive in his gameplay mechanics, right. I guess. Or
that's the main thing that I thought of, was that for people who are experiencing powerlessness and or anger against rules in a normal way, like what Berto's expressing, the dark side feels more powerful. You can do whatever you want. As a Jedi, you have power, but you have to follow certain rules. Yeah. When you're dark side, you can literally do anything you want. You could help the good guys if you wanted to, but you could also kill them all. You could turn on a dime. You're a dark side. You can, this is why we like gangster movies, because they get away with stuff.
Absolutely. And why Grand Theft Auto is one of the best-selling games of all time.
Yeah. Another reason is because I think it's kind of considered cool these days. When I was young, it was very strange to find people identifying with Darth Vader or any of the bad guys. Batman was just a shade away from Superman. And then The Dark Knight comes out, which was the beginning of that, The Dark Knight, the comic in the 80s, was the beginning of this new anti-hero thing that was very different. And, up until that time, it was rare to have, Taxi Driver had an anti-hero in it, but that movie was not well understood when it came out. It was a very odd duck among a lot of movies. In the 80s, you had Rambo and Predator. You had these characters that were just like 100% good. And so I think that it's just a trend that people have now. When you stand in a group of hardcore video gamers and you say, I don't like playing Darth Vader because I like to be good, you're going to get laughed at. People are going to be like, that's nerdy, you know, like cool kids play dark side. That's kind of the thing. Not that it's wrong to play dark side because it's just a flippin' video game, but I'm just saying that I think it's a trend.
Even so, Daggerfall is in the series, like the Oblivion and the what was the dragon one, Skyrim and stuff. Daggerfall was like the second one in that series. Amazing game back in the day. Me and my buddy Eric, we spent like so much time playing that game. And one of our favorite things was absolutely seeing what we could get away with, trying to break the law, see if we could fight the soldiers in town. And again, I think it goes back to, well, you asked me, you said, well, but you also can't be Luke Skywalker. But it's not about a specific character. It's about the things that character is supposed to do and not do. And I think you nailed it, that it's like, well, sure, I could follow the rules, but I have to do that already.
Right. And, you know, video games are escape, and I love gangster movies. So, but the thing that I should say is that I have a hard time playing evil characters in video games. In the same way that you don't want to watch The Faces of Death, I actually, every once in a while, I'll sit down. In fact, just before you and I got on the thing here, Berto, and was recording, so Dungeons and Dragons, they're starting to come out. They're starting to reissue all these old adventures, all these old modules from the 80s in modern rule set. So the Dungeons and Dragons rule set in the 80s was really terrible. Like didn't make any sense. In some ways it was kind of cool in that way, and right now there's 5th edition, which we play with the other guys. Yeah. It's much simpler. And I'm much more familiar with it. Well, they're updating a lot the adventures, and I was saying, you know what? And I've actually been playing by myself. I've just been going through these old modules to get to know them, and I was like, I should make a party of characters that are evil. I want to make a bunch of kobolds, and I'll make them all evil. And I've done that so many times. I've said, okay, I'm going to make an evil character. And then when it comes to playing it, I always play just ultra good because I can't help it. Like when in Dungeons and Dragons, when we were playing with the guys, I don't know if it was last time or the time before that, and we're about to get on the blimp, and that girl is coming with us.
Oh, right.
And I was the sole alone person going like, by the way, if you're listening and you don't know, we played Dungeons and Dragons game on the podcast, and there was this moment where my character, he's a rogue. He's supposed to be the most shadiest of all the characters. He's supposed to be like a thief and underground kind of guy. And this girl is coming with us, this daughter of this guy, and she could be useful, but she could get hurt. And I was like, no, even if she's helpful, putting her in harm's way is stupid. Why? She has no skill set. Right. She should not be coming with us. And everyone is opposing me. You were opposing me. The dungeon master was opposing me. The girl was opposing me. And I just can't help it. I'm like, even in a world that doesn't exist, and even if the world is saying, no, we want her to come, I can't deal with it. I always play light side. I always play Jedi.
That's funny.
I always play the good guy. In Skyrim, I tried hard not to kill the guards, but I think I killed one because they just randomly attacked me. And then once you kill one, they always want to get you.
So you probably couldn't play Grand Theft Auto then.
Well, Grand Theft Auto, when I've played it, I have played. But
you just don't do any bad. You try to stay within the within the lines.
Well, right. I mean, define bad in Grand Theft Auto because you're a gangster fighting other gangsters.
Well, no, but you can be.
But I don't run over pedestrians.
That's what I mean. You can run over pedestrians. You can shoot people randomly. All those kinds of things.
Yeah, I don't. That doesn't make me feel good. It actually makes me feel bad. I mean, I don't get any pleasure from that. And honestly, I agree with the anonymous listener of just like it's disturbing. Because it's one thing to say I like to play Darth Vader. It's another thing to say, to revel in running over people in Grand Theft Auto. It's a video game. It's not real. It's, of course, we all understand that. But so that leads me to my next point is that actual psychopaths are in the world. These people do not care about human life or human feelings. Some of them are sadists and actually enjoy hurting other people. Okay, so if you're a psychopath, and there are millions of them all over the world, and you're a sadist, where do you go if not the internet to enact your sick pleasure upon other things? Because you can't hurt your neighbor, you'll go to jail. But you certainly can hurt a lot of people and creep the heck out of a lot of other people while you're doing it, because you're giggling the whole time while you're, gutting someone in, Star Wars: The Old Republic, or you're talking constantly about how you completely humiliated this other person or something. So that's another reason. Now, of course, that's not most people. Most of the people who play dark side aren't psychopaths, but if you're a psychopath, you're probably playing dark side. Okay, the fourth thing is, Berto also kind of referred to this as well, is it's just fun. It's fun to play something different. That's why we play video games. As Berto was saying, it'd be dumb to play a game that was life, but, aside from Sims, but you can even say Sims obviously is beyond life. It's not your life,
Yeah.
But whenever I play Sims, I make me, and I make his name Kirk, and then I make my wife, and we're married.
Yeah.
And I try to get a professional job, and I try to get a sensible car.
But imagine if it actually took, you have to go to 4 years of school in real time.
I don't know how long ago you played Sims, but the more recent versions of Sims, it's time consuming, man. Like when you go to work, you can't speed it up. Like, you can speed it up, but it's not like you can just skip forward.
Sure,
Like, you got to sit there and go like, all right, I'm at work now. Like, you're just watching the clock tick by.
No, I haven't played since it first came out, but my memory of it is that there's always multitasking that you have to be doing, because okay, I'm gonna go do this. Oh, but I also want to do this. Oh, but if I do that, I can't do this, and I got
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know.
Yeah,
I hear you, and trust me, I've tried playing games in a manner where it's like I'm gonna fully commit, like be in character and stuff like this, and that can be its own type of fun. Sometimes the games don't support it as well, which is frustrating. But in fact, that was one of the things I really enjoyed about Knights of the Old Republic, is that one of the first games where I could actually make meaningful choices as a player that had disastrous consequences.
That was the first. That was the first big game, if not the first game, where you could actually go dark side and you could choose, and your actions determined whether you went dark. That was its big thing, and that was like, whoa, like
in a big way too. It wasn't just like, well, I cheated at poker.
The ending was different,
Yeah, like completely.
Yeah. But anyway, so just in summary, when you feel powerlessness, you will seek power, and one of the ways to do it is dark side's always going to feel more powerful. It's cool because it's kind of trendy, and it makes me wonder if in another 40 years it'll be less trendy to be dark side. I don't know. Or there'll be some third gray side that'll come out. There's 3 is there's actual psychopaths in the world, and 4, it's just fun to play something different. When we watch the movies, we get a lot of attention on the Jedi.
Yeah.
So it could feel kind of fun to play like, oh, you mean I got to play the Stormtrooper? Like, we don't ever get to explore that side of the world. What does it feel like to be on that side of the equation?
Yeah.
And to run around and actually hit your target with your blaster,
Right.
By the way, Mandalorian, second season. Have you watched?
I'm up to date.
Oh, I'm not. But I've watched the first 3, I think.
So I'm enjoying this season more than the first season.
Oh, really?
I am, yeah, because it's my main complaint with the first season, I don't know if you remember, I loved the setups and things, and I just didn't like the dialogue as much. I thought the dialogue was a little, could have used some more work. I'm not as bothered this time. I will say there's a couple moments where that comes back, but it's more to do with the actor or the actor in question. But overall, I found that the dialogue in this season, I am not bothered by. So
interesting. So I'm not as gripped by the second season. I like it, but I'm not as sort of geeked out by it as I was with the first season.
How many episodes in are you?
Maybe 3 or so. I'm not sure. I think
feel
there's
like it
5.
starts ramping up for sure.
Okay. Well, but I went back and to update me. I went back to last season and watched the final episode, and it did not hold up to the feeling I had about it the first time I watched it. So you and I have regressed to the mean in this way.
Yeah.
Because I was I was watching the final episode, and the first time I saw it, I remember just really digging it. You know, it felt like it was a good wrap up to the whole thing. And watching it this time, I'm like, there are some very slow moments in this episode, and there's some kind of illogical situations happening here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's in general. The way I felt about the first season overall was, I was like, I mean, the way I felt, I was like, I think if I were 12, my mind would be completely blown. But there were a lot of times where I had to just like be okay with, okay, that doesn't make sense, or cheesy lines and stuff. I was surprised though, because there's some people like Seth, who I really respect normally with movie opinions and things, who were like 200% on board with every aspect of it.
Yeah, I was
pushed back strongly on any of my criticisms.
Yeah, I was in that direction, and I think it was because, you know, the Star Wars, the episode 7, 8, 9 was in a particular style of Star Wars artistry. There was something missing, which was the simple and the character and the things that don't involve like the entire galaxy. And these simple little moments where it's gritty and there's dust and it's just a good guy against bad guy, and something has to happen. And you know, it really was refreshing to have that story and to have it feel real. And because the armor he wears, you know, I get a sense like that's real metal armor, right?
Yeah, it's real special.
Yeah, and when the IG unit shows up, you get a sense, even though it's, you know, obviously got to be CG, but it feels, it's not over the top. It's not like Yoda flipping all around. You know, it's just a robot walking around, and
it feels doable. Like, I can get with this, which is how Star Wars felt. You were like, yeah, that feels like our past. That feels legit.
Yeah, that could happen.
That could have happened.
All right, Berto, that is the end of that. I've never been able to get to the end of this list of emails. And by the way, if you're out there and you want to send us an email for an episode for me and Berto, make sure you write in there like, you know, this is a question for Kirk and Berto.
And potentially Berto.
Because if you don't do that, then it gets kind of just shoved into this larger document. So if you want to get your questions answered on the podcast, you're much more likely to get it answered if you address it to me and Berto, by the way.
Okay.
And I don't know, Berto, I don't want to say goodbye. So tell me a gripe or wrath.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I mean, this 2020 is the year of the wrath, you know, the wrath of everything. No, so here's the deal. I recently had a medical scare. Another medical scare. It's the second one this year. It's probably related.
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that.
I don't want to go into all the details, honestly. I sort of want to make a video, maybe where I talk about it. But the TLDR is that I have problems with my thyroid, and it's not a quick fix. It's gonna be a lifelong thing that I need to deal with. But the gripe of wrath is, oh my gosh, man. It's 2020, and I feel like when I have a medical concern and a medical question, there's this impenetrable black box that is the medical establishment. And you, of course, if you're dying or if you're in an emergency, like you go to the emergency room and eventually they attend you, and the more dire your circumstances, the more likely they'll attend you faster. And while they're attending you, like you can get some answers and like you can get some attention. But when you're outside of those emergencies, it's like, okay, can I get an appointment? Our next one is in 3 months. Oh, wow. Can I at least be on a cancellation list or something? And then, can I ask some questions? You could email some questions. I don't know if they'll get back to you. There's a nurse's line, and then you call the nurse's line, and they can't disclose most information. I don't know. I don't have your charts. I'm not your doctor. And so it's like this incredible frustration. So you have to go to the internet, because then you have to like see if you can find some information, find support groups, whatever. And then when you finally get to see the doctor and you tell them, hey, I was reading this and that, they're like, oh, don't trust anything on the internet. It's like, God damn it. Fine. But who do I talk to? I'm dying over here. What do I do? So
Yeah.
my gripe of wrath is that it's 2020, people. And look, can we now at least start using like better systems that are doctor vetted to give people better guidance than just random hearsay or silence until, radio silence, because it's not, I mean, like, and I'm lucky, I have great insurance. Like, I can't even imagine, dude, if I didn't have insurance, what would I do? You're screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's complicated, and I'm sorry you're going through that. And I've been there at times, not to that degree.
Yeah.
And it can be very scary and frustrating, and you're just thinking, okay, if I just sort of add up all the 3-month waits, like it'll be 5 years before I even know what's going on. If I could just talk to these people for 5 minutes.
But
my bottom line, Berto, is I feel crappy for you because I was there with you, as you were going through a lot of this.
That's right, because you were my hospital buddy.
Yeah, we established that episodes ago, and you contacted me, and I, again, you're not going to go into the details, but it was scary and upsetting, and
thank you, by the way, because I felt so much more connected and not alone. Because in January, when that stuff happened to me, which was very similar essentially, but anyways, I told you I felt so alone.
Yeah. And then
this time it was really helpful to have. I had you and I had Ron too, and you were both really good.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it's funny. Our bodies are just falling apart this year. What a great year. Woo! Yeah, it's 2021. You had that big problem and you ended up in the hospital, and then you told me about it on the episode, and then I was yelling at you. I was like, Berto, tell me about it. And then we made a pact that we're going to be hospital buddies. And then like a month later, I'm in Mardi Gras, and I have this
and you're like, I'm in the hospital
with an allergic reaction.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I mean, along those lines, I still don't know what the allergen was because of the pandemic. I don't want to clog up the system, you know what I mean? Yeah. Well, actually, they canceled. Anyway, point is that this year we've been to the hospital a collective three times with major issues. But yeah, I feel bad for you. It was, and then afterward, you're still kind of dealing with it. Bob is actually dealing with some pain for himself, and so. And I know a lot of you out there have similar issues of chronic pain or some other thing, or a loved one who's going through something, or an animal, a pet that's going through something. It's
life. It's
life and tough, and we're all in it together, Berto. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.